Just finished the second part of Andor. What's going on with Cassian this time? Bright Suns, everybody, Batuuboii here, and welcome to another review video for Andor. It's season 2 time. It's my favorite Star Wars show, and it's funny because I just saw a post about the re-release of Revenge of the Sith and Andor season 2 coming out, and it being like, good to see Star Wars being political again, because this season is quite political, especially these next 3 episodes. And it wasn't easy to watch either, and not in sense of like the content, because obviously like the espionage aspect of it and the political side of things and kind of like the slow burn that Andor is known for is kind of what makes it appealing to me. It's obviously something different. It's just this 3 episode releases, which I completely understand. It's just these runtimes, man. The last arc we had, it was about 2.5 hours long for all 3 episodes. This one, each episode clocks in at just a little bit over 50 minutes. So if you put it all together, it puts it at about 2 hours and 51 minutes, which is absolutely insane to cover and kind of review. But I think it's just easier to be able to kind of mash up these stories together or combine the storylines together from all 3 episodes, because it is kind of like how the first arc is, where there are these overlying story arcs, where this one kind of focuses on one big one where all the storylines are kind of converging together to feed into this storyline, which focuses on the planet of Ghorman, where we kind of heard about it a little bit in the first part, or in part 1 last week, but now we are fully diving in. It's also taking place a year after the first arc, so this one takes place 3 years before the Battle of Yavin on Ghorman. It opens up pretty much with, we see Syril here. He has transferred himself to Ghorman, seemingly. He is pretty much acting as an Empire, or a mole to the Empire, to find out about the Ghorman front, or the rebel insurgents on Ghorman. Because as they mentioned in the first part, they're looking to have the rebel presence, something drastic that makes them feel like they're winning, but inevitably make them mess up, to then lead them to have the citizens of Ghorman be transported off-world so they can mine the core of the planet and destroy it. Episode 4 pretty much is kind of feeding us into and introducing us to the rebel front on Ghorman, which Syril gets an invite to, where they discuss their plans and their kind of like rumors going around about the Empire, who are building this giant building that they're upset about because it is overshadowing a memorial from what was called the Ghorman Massacre, which I had to look up because they did not give any sort of context, at least in that episode, about what it was. They do later on, but essentially the Ghorman Massacre involved Grand Moff Tarkin, where he was trying to land his ship there on the planet, and some protesters kind of just sat there on the platform, kind of just did like a non-violent protest and just not letting him land, thinking he wouldn't possibly land his ship on all of these people. He did. He killed over 500 people by landing his ship on top of them. And it's the most Grand Moff Tarkin thing I've ever heard of in my life. Essentially, after that, they built this memorial, and now that the Empire is back on Ghorman, they are building this giant facility that is overlooking it, and just the whole like imagery and meaning behind it is something that's pissing the Ghormans off. So they are trying to find some evidence to kind of reveal this as an actual secret armory that they are building, which goes against all sorts of violations in the Empire, which, who cares? The Empire's going to do whatever they want. Have you seen who their leader is? He does whatever he wants. So essentially, long story short, that is what's going on in episode 4. We then see that he is obviously feeding this information to Daedra and Partagaz. They begin to kind of weave their web into how they are going to make them feel like they're winning, but in the end, make them absolutely lose. So while all of this is happening, throughout the arc I'll call it. We have Andor on Coruscant. Essentially, they're living with Bix in an apartment. They're literally like cooking together, just living their best life. He's a little bit paranoid. He's kind of conflicted as to like wanting to follow Luthen's cause, which, you know, Luthen is already kind of shady and isn't really 100% with everybody and always has meaning with whatever he does, which is leaving Andor paranoid between if he wants to follow Luthen or if he wants to keep Bix safe, essentially thinking that everybody is watching them and he doesn't want to lose Bix because he just loves her so much. He goes on a mission and essentially leaves Bix alone to go and pretty much scout the rebel cause on Ghorman, to which he meets with the leader named Rylance, who tells him about this plan. He obviously sees that this rebel front is not ready. They're too easy to trust. They're impatient. They're wanting to move quickly. But Cassian is a man who wants to make sure that every step of the way before they take action is that there are no sort of outliers that will come to mess them up later on down the line. He essentially tells them that their plan kind of sucks, that they shouldn't go through with it. He also tells Luthen this. Luthen says that you're not thinking like a leader, and we're going to go and follow up with it anyway, sending Mon Mothma's cousin, who we met in the first arc, to go and basically give them direction as to how they should execute this plan. The operation begins. They figure out how they're all going to do it. It kind of goes off successfully. Obviously, Cyril is there in the background feeding everything that's going on to Daedra and Partagaz. It's seemingly going without any sort of violence, that it's just going to go down all nice and quiet. A shot gets fired off, leading them to go and send troopers in, but they're able to go and sneak out of there beforehand, so it's a slight success. But that's essentially everything that goes on in terms of Ghorman. We see that they're successful in their taking of these weapons, and we're hopefully led to believe that in the year coming that the rebel presence on Ghorman is going to increase, it's going to get wilder, and the Empire is going to crush it with a firm fist. I now want to transfer over to Coruscant, as there's some slighter things that are happening on Coruscant that I think are pretty important, and especially towards the end of episode 6, it gets really crazy. So while Andor is off doing his thing on Ghorman, Bix is left alone in the apartment, just kind of vegetating. Like, there's literally just scenes of her just laying around doing nothing as she's taking these drugs, literal drugs, like a little drop in her mouth, to soothe her dreams that she's been having of Dr. Gorst, who obviously interrogated her in season 1 so much that she is essentially just left brutally scarred from that experience, and she's kind of sick of being there alone. The drugs are helping her sleep. There is a scene where Luthen comes in and essentially tells her about the drug that she's taking, that it might help you out now, but it's going to just increase your dreams later on down the line. This leads to a crazy scene where she essentially just walks into an Empire facility and finds Dr. Gorst, straps him to his own interrogation chair, and just leaves him there. And we're here thinking that she's doing this all on her own. She's crashing out. She literally just shoots an Imperial officer in just broad daylight. And as she's walking out, we see Andor walk out with her as well, push a button, and the facility just explodes. So then I'm here left thinking, like, okay, but are you thinking rationally? You didn't want to go through with these people's plans because it was kind of like irrational or not thinking very quickly, but then you're like, oh, but my girlfriend is getting affected by this doctor, so let's just strap to a chair and literally blow up the building in the most populated planet in the galaxy with the heaviest Imperial presence. But that's just me. I thought it was a really cool way to end the episode, but that's where I kind of see that plot point kind of get thrown to the wayside. We also have a little mini arc on Dakar where we see Willman, who was obviously part of the original crew in Andor season 1. He is with Saw Gerrera, and he's there to essentially teach Saw's engineer how to use this machine to essentially mine Rymon, which is a very valuable spacecraft fuel. It's kind of implied that Saw kind of uses this as like a drug, as he goes on this like montage about how he used to mine it as a child and how you could feel it before you smell it. It's really weird. I think it's also the reasoning behind why he is using like a ventilator mask when we see him in Rogue One. Willman teaches his engineer how to use the machine. It turns out that the engineer is also a mole for the Empire. It's a very small arc. It's literally just in episode 5. It's that slight other little connection to Rogue One, which I think is what we're going to see when we inevitably get K2SO in the series. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, this one was a very, very, very slow burn in episodes 4 and 5 leading up to episode 6. So it's just full espionage. There's obviously a lot more that happened in the episode, but I feel that the stuff on Ghorman and Coruscant in terms of Bix and this rebel cell was probably the more important aspects of the episodes. So that's where I'll leave it at, because the dots are getting crazy. The spider web is just blowing up, and just there's more and more strands the more I think about it. But I think just for the sake of this episode, or for this review video, I think that is where I'll leave it. I want to leave it more up to you guys. Just let me know what you think. Leave it down in the comments what you're thinking about for this series, what you think further down the line is going to be happening, and I'm just excited to see what happens next Tuesday. But until next time, till the spire, my friends.